Okay, Dreamer, please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Advent Expedition is finally open today, so I'm gonna introduce the mode to you guys. Advent Expedition is a guild content where your entire guild will work together to take down the shadow fallouts of Ol, Teo, Karl, Yonhee and Karma. I have already made guides for all 4 bosses last week, so if you haven't checked them out, please do check them out so you have a better idea of what you can use and how to defeat them. Each of these bosses have 2 phases, requiring you to bring 2 teams per run, and just like Castle Rush, you have a total of 70 turns to score as high as possible. What is different is that there are only 2 phases in this particular mode, and phase 1 isn't just a simple one tap. In phase 1, each of the boss will have 1 million HP. The goal is to deplete this 1 million HP bar as quickly as you can. As soon as you kill the boss in phase 1, you will enter phase 2 with whatever remaining turns you have. For example, if you kill the boss on phase 1 at turn 56, you will enter phase 2 at turn 56 itself as well, with only 14 turns remaining for phase 2. The shadow fallouts of Ol in phase 2 have 5 million HP, so the sooner you kill the boss in phase 1, the more time you will have in phase 2 to inflict as much damage as you can, or even kill the boss to get as high of a score as possible. The maximum score you can get is 6 million if you manage to kill the boss in both phases within the 70 turn limit. One Advent Expedition season runs for 14 days and you can get 1 entry per day. The game allows you to keep a maximum capacity of 10 entries, which means in contrary to Castle Rush, Advent Expedition is not necessarily something you have to do daily. Instead, you can save up your entries and use your attempts when you have more time to do so. And of course, just remember to do it because it is important for you and your guild to spend attempts and not waste any. Again, unlike Castle Rush, where your extra attempts are just means to improve your score, in Advent Expedition, the scores you get on each attempt accumulates against the boss's total HP. Each of the shadow fallouts of Ol have a total of 100 million HP. So with 4 bosses, this means that there is a grand total of 400 million HP. Every guild member's attempt in scoring against the boss will deduct this grand total, and once it is depleted, the boss is considered killed and conquered, giving you a reward. A guild with 30 members, each with 14 attempts, will have to score as much as they can to conquer all 4 shadow fallouts of Ol. To further facilitate this, the guild leader can actually specify which boss to take down first. However, this is of course just making a note and it doesn't really prevent any guild member from hitting something else. And once all 4 bosses are killed, the final boss appears, the God of Destruction himself, which I unfortunately cannot show here because these 4 are still alive and kicking. The match against the God of Destruction similarly has 2 phases, phase 1 with 1 million HP and phase 2 with 5 million HP, and similarly the sooner you kill it in phase 1, the more turns you will have in phase 2. The scoring for this fight is different from the other bosses against the previous 4 shadow fallouts of Ol, whereby instead of all guild members working together to clear a grand total pool of HP, with the God of Destruction, it is more similar to Castle Rush, whereby you try to score as high as possible. The game records every guild member's 3 best scores against the God of Destruction and adds them up, with the total being the guild's ranking pitched against other guilds. So this means the earlier your guild clears the 4 bosses, the more attempts you have to try and retry scoring against the God of Destruction, pushing your rank up as a guild. Now let's talk about the rewards. Firstly, for clear rewards, killing each boss will give you 2 fallouts of Ol equipment boxes with 600 God of Destruction fragments. These fallouts of Ol equipment boxes will give you similar sets as your raid gears, but are guaranteed to come with 3 substats. The substats themselves are not fixed, rather you are guaranteed a gear with 3 random substats. So as you can see here, Teo and Yonhee's boxes gives you more offense related sets, whereas Karl and Karma's boxes gives you more defense related sets for physical and magic respectively. And under personal rewards, you get keys and God of Destruction fragments just from scoring against the boss. Rewards are given cumulatively up to a score of 10 million, giving you a total of 3,100 God of Destruction fragments and 420 keys. Moving on to rank rewards determined by your guild's rank in scoring against the God of Destruction alone. Key thing to note here is that literally just scoring 1 point against the God of Destruction will give your entire guild 3 rare accessory boxes and some God of Destruction fragments. And these rare accessory boxes are huge, especially since it's pretty rare to get them from Adventure itself, and this is the only other source that's available to specifically give rare accessories. So it is really something worth to work towards together. Now lastly, to the guild shop where we can spend the God of Destruction fragments. For the time being, there are only 3 items listed for sale. You can only purchase these with the God of Destruction fragments, with the best being the Fallouts of Old ticket. And there's other 2 extra purchases you can make, which is the 5-star accessory box and the rare refining talismans. And perhaps depending on where you are in the game, some people will definitely be more attracted to the Fallouts of Old, especially to get these units. I would say that Karma is probably the least wanted one, unfortunately. But getting these 5-star rare accessory boxes isn't exactly the worst thing, because you can actually craft using 3 5-star rare accessories to get a 6-star one, and the 6-star effects are all pretty decent, especially the ones that provide certain attack damage boosts depending on how many targets you are hitting. This can actually come in handy, especially for your single target DPSs, such as the one that buffs single target. This will actually increase your damage output and in the long run will help in all your PvE content. I would feel that the rare refining talisman is something that you can put aside for later, because ultimately you will want to get the base accessories made first, then think about refining them. And that is all I have for Advent Expedition content, but moving on to some of the thoughts I have for the meta for the mode. At the core of it, the goal of this mode is, number 1, to deplete 400 million HP within the guild's grand total of attempts, and number 2, having enough attempts to score in the God of Destruction for guild ranking. So considering this is a guild effort, in an ideal world, if the entire guild can work together, one can figure out which guild member's account has a better box and has better comms built against certain bosses. For example, for argument's sake, if my account has a T12 Pascal but only a T3 Shane, oversimplified I mean, but this means that I can potentially contribute a lot better scoring against Teo, where Pascal is used, compared to scoring against Carl, where Shane is used. And since you can choose where to spend your attempts, I can actually be so-called the specialist against Teo, while I leave Carl to someone in the guild who has better gears and better heroes made for him. Very ideal world, but something you can consider. This ultimately helps to streamline the guild's attempts, total attempts, and of course in hopes that lesser attempts are used against the 4 Shadow Fallouts of Old, with more attempts to be used against the God of Destruction. And since the God of Destruction only holds each member's top 3 scores, if you think about it, that is equivalent to almost 90 rounds if every member has 3 rounds to score, to record their score for. But you have a total of 14 attempts per member in the whole entire 2 weeks. So it is a matter of having 90 out of 420 attempts, which means the maximum number of rounds and attempts you can use for the Fallouts of Old will be 330, and you want to try to reduce this as low as possible so that you have more attempts for the God of Destruction. Secondly, this is a dual phase mode, so a question I have thought about for a while is, how do I decide which team to bring for which phase? And after some thought, I think this is a pretty okay guideline. Okay, just my thoughts, not something you should strictly follow. The idea is to finish phase 1 as soon as you can to enter phase 2 with more turns. This is something we talked about. Well, going in line with this thought, you might be better off bringing your sub team in phase 1 so that your bigger damage team can take care of phase 2. However, the counter argument then becomes, can your sub team actually kill the first phase fast enough so that your main team can kill phase 2? Consider this, if you have your sub team clear phase 1 in 57 turns out of 70 turns, that means your main team can only clear phase 2 at the start of turn 57, and if your main team needs to buff up and debuff the boss to increase the damage, that's gonna waste a lot of turns, and your damage output and your score for phase 2 is gonna be not that amazing. So if you look at this particular case, usually you'll put Jupi in team 1 and the Shane comp in team 2 because we all know that Shane definitely does more damage than Jupi. But in this particular case, in the early days of this mode, where your accounts are still growing and your units could still be, not T12 or T6, even lower transcendence, and the gears are still not great, skills are not enhanced, it might be best for the average player to just bring your main team for team 1 to clear as soon as you can, and then sustain and clear phase 2 with as much score as possible. Over time, as you get better with your sub team, you can actually change the team over and then use your sub team for phase 1 and use the main team for phase 2. Of course, for top players and whales, of course, just bring your main team for phase 2 and bring your sub team for phase 1 if you are very confident that your sub team can clear the phase 1 million HP with very, very fast timing. And on that note, thank you for carrying your guilds. So that's all I have for you today. I hope this video gives you a good idea of what to consider for Advent Expedition. Remember to check out the bosses guides themselves to know what to use and what gimmicks the bosses have. And if you still have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If this video has been helpful, do give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more videos. Thank you so much and see you!